The disappearance of Sarm Heslop remains one of the most puzzling modern mysteries in the Caribbean. Now, newly released CCTV footage has brought her case back into the spotlight, showing the last confirmed sighting of the British woman before she vanished without a trace in March 2021. The video, obtained exclusively by the BBC, shows Sarm walking through the streets with her boyfriend, Ryan Bain, just hours before she went missing. She appears relaxed, smiling, and carefree. Yet within only 6 hours, she would be reported missing. Despite one of the largest search operations ever carried out in the Virgin Islands, Sarm has never been found. Sarm, a former flight attendant from Southampton, was described by friends and family as adventurous, fearless, and full of life. In 2019, she left the UK to join friends on a sailing trip across the Atlantic, traveling through islands such as St. Lucia, Guadeloupe, Dominica, and Martinique. It was exactly the kind of adventure that matched her free-spirited personality. During her travels, Sarm met Ryan Bain, a 50-year-old American and the owner of a luxury catamaran called Siren Song. He ran high-end charters for wealthy tourists, and before long, Sarm became part of both his personal and professional life. She eventually took on work as a chef aboard the yacht, and their relationship quickly grew closer. On March 7, 2021, Sarm had just finished her first charter on the Siren Song. That night, she and Ryan went ashore for dinner before returning to the yacht. The newly released CCTV footage shows her on that evening, alive, healthy, and seemingly at ease. Looking back now, the footage carries a chilling weight. It was the last verified time she was seen alive. By the next morning, she was gone. Ryan Bain claimed that Sarm may have fallen overboard during the night, but his story has been met with skepticism. Despite being central to the investigation, he has never been formally questioned by police. Adding to the doubts, all of Sarm's personal belongings, including her passport, money, and phone, were left behind on the yacht, suggesting she had not planned to leave. Authorities launched an intensive search by land, sea, and air. Divers scoured the waters, boats and helicopters were deployed, and the surrounding islands were searched, but no trace of Sarm was ever found. Her family has been left in agonizing uncertainty. Her mother, Brenda, has spoken about the heartbreak of losing her daughter without answers. Though she has come to accept the possibility that Sarm may no longer be alive, she insists that finding out what truly happened is essential for the family to begin healing. When Chief of Police Stephen Phillip released the footage, he admitted the investigation had stalled. He hoped that new eyes on the video might reveal something overlooked, some small detail that could revive the case. Sarm's friends, seeing the video for the first time, studied it closely for any sign of tension or discomfort between her and Bain. Every clue matters, no matter how small. The case has captured global attention not only because of its mystery but because it underscores a frightening truth. Even in today's world of constant surveillance and digital footprints, a person can vanish completely. For Sarm's family, friends, and the many who continue to follow her case, the CCTV footage is both heartbreaking and haunting. It stands as the last glimpse of her before she disappeared into the Caribbean night, a reminder of how quickly life can change and how a vibrant presence can vanish without explanation. The hope remains that one day, the truth about Sarm Heslop will finally be uncovered. The mysterious disappearance of Nathan Wise has left family, friends, and an entire community searching for answers. Nathan, who was 37 years old when he went missing, lived with Down syndrome and functioned at a developmental level similar to that of a 7-year-old. Despite his challenges, Nathan was well loved for his charisma, kindness, and sense of humor. Those who knew him best described him as friendly, caring, and capable in his own unique way, someone who easily brought joy to the people around him. Nathan's passions were wide-ranging and filled with the things he loved most. He was a devoted fan of the Toronto Blue Jays and the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he lit up whenever he had the chance to talk about sports. In 2018, He even appeared in an interview during a special football practice hosted by the Wilfrid Laurier University Golden Hawks, created for adults with developmental disabilities. Beyond sports, Nathan enjoyed video games, wrestling, and even soap operas, showing his playful and light-hearted nature. Although Nathan had only recently moved to Toronto in March of 2023, he had strong ties to Kitchener-Waterloo, where he once lived and received respite care. He was familiar with the Bloomingdale area, St. Jacob's Market, and Elmira, where he attended church with his family. His recent move was meant to bring him closer to loved ones, ensuring he could remain out of a group home setting and live within the warmth of family. At the time of his disappearance, he resided with his siblings. The months leading up to Nathan's disappearance were marked by personal loss. His father passed away in December of 2022, nearly 10 years after his mother had passed. Despite the tragedy, Nathan continued to surround himself with the people he loved most. However, his father's passing weighed heavily on him, and many believe it influenced his actions in the days before he went missing. On the evening of the 12th of May, 2023, Nathan was last seen at Jane Street and Shepherd Avenue in the North York area of Toronto around 7 p.m. Curiously, he did not have his wallet or phone with him, only carrying $20 in cash. When he failed to return home, he was officially reported missing on the 14th of May. Days later, around the 19th of May, police revealed that Nathan may have been spotted in the Guelph area, not far from Kitchener-Waterloo. The sighting aligned with the family's belief that Nathan may have been trying to make his way back to the region where his father had passed. Unfortunately, despite efforts, police were unable to locate any surveillance footage confirming the report, and the trail went cold, adding another layer of difficulty to the family's search. Toronto police had changed their policy in February of 2023 regarding missing persons. They no longer released surnames as a measure to protect privacy. Initially, only Nathan's first name and photos were made public. His family, wishing to protect themselves from harassment, also refrained from using their surname, though they continued their tireless efforts to raise awareness online. Over time, especially by 2025, Nathan's full name began appearing in news coverage, but this only came after family members had endured unwanted messages and even threats. Police have stated that foul play is not suspected in Nathan's case, but the uncertainty surrounding his disappearance remains agonizing for those closest to him. To his loved ones, the possibility that Nathan may have been trying to reconnect with the places and memories tied to his late father is heartbreaking. Yet, it provides a sense of direction in the search for answers. Nathan's disappearance is not only a tragic mystery, but also a reminder of the vulnerability faced by individuals with special needs. His absence has left a void in the lives of many who admired his bright spirit, his humor, and his ability to bring joy to those around him. For now, the community continues to hope for clarity, holding on to the memory of Nathan Wise, the charismatic and caring man who touched countless hearts. The disappearance of Chalice Welch has left her family, friends, and community searching desperately for answers. On the night of February 2nd, Chalice was dropped off at a birthday party at the Irving Embassy Suites around 10:30 p.m. She was later seen by friends getting into a car with an unidentified man. That moment became the last confirmed sighting of her. Inside the hotel where the party was held, Chalice's belongings, including her jacket, were left behind, suggesting she had planned to return. Her phone records provide another troubling clue. Around 12:23 a.m. on February 3rd, she made her last phone call, which coincided with her final Instagram post. Just minutes later, her phone stopped pinging, and by 1 a.m., it had been shut off. Investigators later learned the device had been tampered with, leaving it permanently inoperable. The seriousness of her disappearance became undeniable just 2 days later. On February 5th, her youngest child celebrated their first birthday, a milestone Chalice would never have willingly missed. Her absence that day was one of the strongest signs that something was very wrong. Details about her last known movements only deepen the mystery. According to her father, Jason Welch, The family knows the identity of the man who picked her up from the party, though his name has not been made public. Referred to here as SD, the man told others that he and Chalice went to an apartment on Mandeville Lane in Dallas. But witnesses at the apartment complex later stated that SD arrived alone, with no sign of Chalice. When questioned, he claimed he didn't know what happened to her. Despite these contradictions, by November 2024, Chalice's mother, Kimberly Spinks, revealed that many of the people who attended the birthday party that night had still not been interviewed by police. This lack of progress has only fueled the family's frustration as they continue pushing for answers and greater public awareness. Jason Welch has also expressed his fear that Chalice may have been exploited, though he has not shared specific details about why he believes this. While unconfirmed, his concern highlights the family's desperation and the grim possibilities surrounding her disappearance. A $7,000 reward has been offered for information that could lead to answers. Still, as of today, Chalice Welch remains missing. Her family refuses to let her story fade into silence. They continue to demand answers, holding on to hope that someone, somewhere, knows the truth. Chalice's case is a haunting reminder of how quickly someone can vanish, leaving behind loved ones desperate for closure. 26-year-old Colin Arey has been missing since January 25, 2017, and for one woman, uncovering the truth about what happened to him has become a personal mission. Colin was originally from Bucksport, Maine, but his ambitions led him to New York, where he earned a fashion degree from the Art Institute of New York in 2010. After graduation, he dated a man he met online, but when that relationship ended, Colin returned to Maine and moved in with his stepfather. Back home, he worked as a substitute teacher, though he relied on rides to and from work since he didn't own a car. Despite their breakup, Colin and his ex-boyfriend stayed in contact and spoke often. In fact, the last confirmed interaction anyone had with Colin was on the very day he disappeared, through a series of text messages exchanged with his ex. That same day, his stepfather dropped him off on Brewer Street in Bucksport. Colin was expected to start working at the Sears store in the Bangor Mall. But when he didn't return home as planned, his family initially thought he may have decided to move back to New York. That assumption quickly changed. When Colin's grandmother was hospitalized with a heart condition, his family tried to reach him, only to realize he had gone completely silent. In June 2018, a year and 5 months after he vanished, Colin was formally reported missing. Their fears deepened when he failed to attend his grandmother's funeral later that October. At the time he went missing, Colin had been saving money to eventually move back to New York, but he had not yet left Maine. His family insists that he was mentally stable, didn't use illegal substances, and normally stayed in close contact. Yet, they haven't heard from him in over 8 years. Police don't believe Colin was the victim of foul play, but despite searches by Bucksport Police and the Maine State Police, his trail has gone completely cold. His last known movements remain a mystery. This is where Jackie Fulton comes in. A former public radio worker in New Hampshire, Jackie turned to documentary studies after being laid off. For one of her classes, she was tasked with reporting on a story from Maine. Having once dealt with her own stepson briefly going missing, she decided to cover a missing person case, eventually discovering Colin's story. Through her research, Jackie learned that despite multiple searches and interviews, investigators had uncovered no solid leads. Colin's disappearance remains unexplained, and his family continues to wait for answers. If you have seen Colin Arey or know anything about his whereabouts, please contact the Bucksport Police Department at 207-469-7951. In April of 2022, an 18-year-old law student from Nuevo Leon, Mexico, vanished under deeply mysterious circumstances. Her name was Debanhi Escobar. She was the adoptive daughter of Mario and Dolores Escobar, and she had big dreams of becoming a lawyer. However, those dreams were cut short in a way that has left Mexico and the world with more questions than answers. On the night of April 8th, Debanhi went to a party with two friends at the Quinta Diamante estate in General Escobedo. First, it was a normal night, but as the hours passed, Debanhi's behavior became increasingly unusual. Witnesses described her as erratic. She even locked herself in the men's bathroom and got into an altercation. Eventually, she was asked to leave the party. Her friends called one David Cuellar, a taxi driver they knew, asking him to take her home. But when he arrived, Debanhi refused to get in the car. Minutes later, she calmed down and agreed, even asking if she could charge her phone. She sat in the back seat, and they drove away. But the ride did not go smoothly. Debanhi's strange behavior returned. She climbed into the front seat, refusing to give her address. According to Juan, she wasn't in control of herself. As they reached the city limits, Debanhi muttered something cryptic about the truth. The driver recorded the interaction on his phone. Moments later, Debanhi asked to get out of the car. Concerned for her safety, Juan pulled over. He pleaded with her to get back inside, recording everything, but she refused. Eventually, he left and sent the recording to her friends, saying she wouldn't come with him. That night, surveillance cameras captured a haunting image. Debanhi walking alone along the highway before entering the grounds of the nearby Nueva Castilla motel. It was the last time she was ever seen alive. When Debanhi didn't return home, her father Mario reported her missing. Her case quickly spread across social media, sparking outrage and desperation. For 13 days, investigators searched tirelessly, focusing heavily on the Nueva Castilla motel. Yet no answers came. Then, on April 22nd, the case took a devastating turn. Debanhi's body was discovered submerged in a cistern on the motel property. Authorities initially claimed her death was an accident, suggesting she struck her head and fell in. But her family refused to believe it. A second autopsy confirmed their fears. Debanhi had suffered physical abuse before her death. Her official cause of death was listed as a deep cranial contusion. To this day, many questions remain unanswered. Why was her behavior so erratic that night? What really happened after she entered the motel grounds? And most of all, who is responsible for her brutal fate? What we do know is this. An 18-year-old law student, full of promise and hope for the future, left a party one April night and never came home. And until justice is served, the case of Debanhi Escobar will remain one of Mexico's most haunting and heartbreaking mysteries. The strange mystery of Jackie Sutton. Jackie Sutton, a former BBC journalist, dedicated much of her career to supporting local reporters in conflict zones. At the time, she was serving as the director for the Institute of War and Peace Reporting. In October 2015, at the age of 50, Jackie arrived in Turkey on a flight from London around 10 p.m. She was scheduled to catch a connecting flight to Iraq at 12:15 a.m. Reports say she spent some time in the airport cafe, casually drinking a beer, and may have dozed off. At about 12:30 a.m., she went to the counter, showing no obvious signs of distress, only to be told she had missed her flight. Witnesses said she suddenly broke down in tears, claiming she didn't have enough money to buy another ticket. However, she was informed there was nothing staff could do. What happened next remains deeply puzzling. Jackie was later seen entering a restroom. Shortly after, two Russian women came out of the same restroom in a state of panic. They had discovered Jackie inside one of the stalls, dead. While some accepted the explanation that she had taken her own life, many others believed something more sinister may have happened. Her friends described her as cheerful, optimistic, and unlikely to end her life over something as minor as a missed flight. Adding to the mystery, investigators found €2,300 in her luggage, contradicting her earlier claim that she had no money for another ticket. To this day, the circumstances around Jackie Sutton's death continue to raise questions. It was New Year's Eve when two men riding their bikes through the woods near Ed Bluestein Boulevard in Texas stumbled upon something they never expected. There, hidden just off the trail, was the body of a young woman. Police were called immediately. Soon, Jane Doe was identified as 23-year-old Nicole Diane Coleman. To understand Nicole's story, we need to go back to the beginning. Nicole was born in March of 1995. She grew up in a loving family with two sisters. Her childhood was ordinary, filled with laughter, kindness, and joy. Friends and family described her as funny, empathetic, and deeply spiritual. She loved the ocean, the trees, and fireflies. But in her teenage years, Nicole began to struggle. She was eventually diagnosed with bipolar disorder. By the age of 18, though, she had learned to manage her condition. She was thriving, living in Houston with her mother after her parents' divorce, and excelling in school. Nicole attended Lone Star College, where she achieved a 4.0 GPA and earned her Associate of Arts degree. Determined to help others facing mental health challenges, she set her sights on becoming a therapist. In 2014, she transferred to Sam Houston State University and began looking for her own apartment. But as the years went on, her mental health declined once again. By 2018, she had fallen into a downward spiral. That year, Nicole made the brave decision to check herself into the Austin State Hospital, a mental health facility, where she received treatment. By December, she was beginning to feel better. She left the facility and moved into a women's group home with 3 other patients. She was hopeful again, deciding whether to return to Houston or stay in Austin to continue her journey. But she would never get the chance to make that choice. On December 28, 2018, Nicole mysteriously disappeared. She left the home alone for a walk, dressed in a pink and white sweater and Capri jeans. She headed toward a cool corner gas station, a place she often visited, likely in hopes of meeting new people in the unfamiliar city. At 5:26 p.m., security cameras captured Nicole walking through the gas station parking lot. At 6:07, she was seen again, walking back. That was the last time anyone ever saw her alive. She never returned to the group home. She stopped answering text messages. And 3 days later, her body was found along the cycling route, not far from where the men on bikes had been riding. Her clothing had been discovered bundled on the sidewalk. Nicole had sustained traumatic injuries throughout her body. In the early stages of the investigation, police considered whether her death was connected to an assault that had happened days earlier, committed by a man named David Green. But after an extensive investigation, he was cleared of any involvement. To this day, Nicole's case remains unsolved. Police and her family believe someone out there knows what happened, but hasn't come forward. Nicole's grandmother, Jillian, put it bluntly, "Whoever did this to my granddaughter is dangerous, scary, and will do it again." And now, more than 5 years later, the haunting question remains. Who took the life of Nicole Coleman, and why? The Strange Case of Erin Moran Brooks. On December 27, 2021, The last known image of Erin Morin Brooks was captured inside a shop in Sutton, New Brunswick. Not long after, she disappeared without a trace, leaving her family, her community, and investigators searching desperately for answers. Since that day, Erin has not been seen or heard from again. Her disappearance is now one of many unresolved cases that weigh heavily on the families of missing Indigenous women across Canada. Erin was a Wolastoqey woman and a member of St. Mary's First Nation. Her family remembers her as a bright, energetic, and curious child. Her mother, Laurie Brooks, recalls how Erin was always smiling and keeping herself busy. That joyful spirit was central to who she was. But as Erin grew older, life became more complicated. She sometimes snuck out at night and struggled with her temper, behaviors her mother admits only worsened with time. While her lifestyle may have played some role in her disappearance, her family says they truly do not know what happened. The day Erin vanished, her life seemed to be moving forward as usual. But from the moment she was last seen in that shop, her trail went completely cold. In the weeks and months that followed, her loved ones endured an agonizing wait. Vigils were held in her honor, offering support to the family and raising awareness about her case. Search efforts took place in the woods around Fredericton, but no trace of Erin was found. With every passing day, the uncertainty deepened, and the silence surrounding her disappearance became harder to bear. Still, the community rallied. Determined to keep Erin's name alive, they stood beside her family. Anonymous donors even came forward, offering a $65,000 reward for information leading to her whereabouts. Yet, despite the reward and all the search efforts, Erin remains missing. For Erin's mother, the hardest part is the lack of closure, living each day without knowing what truly happened to her daughter. But Erin's story is more than a personal tragedy. Her disappearance is part of a wider crisis. The hundreds of Indigenous women and girls who have gone missing or lost their lives under mysterious circumstances across Canada in recent decades. Each case carries its own heartbreak, but together they reveal a troubling reality, one that highlights the risks Indigenous women face and the deep grief left behind for their families and communities. Today, Erin Morin Brooks is still missing. Her name continues to be spoken at vigils, in interviews, and at community gatherings. Her story is kept alive by those who love her, ensuring she will never be forgotten. 45-year-old Jennifer Hollowell Watkins's case has left investigators baffled, since they have a good idea of her last known movements, some of which were caught by CCTV cameras, but they've been unable to track her down for more than 2 months. At the time, she was living in Washington, North Carolina. And on the morning of the 27th of June, 2025, she was seen on VA Road, though reports do not indicate whether she was walking or traveling in a vehicle. When her stepmother had not heard from her for 2 days, she contacted the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office and told them that Jennifer had not come home. A missing person investigation was started, and one of the investigators' first tasks was to ascertain her last known movements. CCTV footage from a Speedway store on Highway 264 showed Jennifer visiting the store on the night before she disappeared. In the footage, she doesn't seem to be in any kind of distress or under anyone's control. While searches of the area were carried out, not a single trace of Jennifer has been found so far, and her family is growing ever more desperate for information on her whereabouts. During the resulting investigation, several of her friends were interviewed, but no one could add anything useful to the information that had been gathered. Several people have contacted Crime Stoppers to submit tips, all of which were followed up on, but still no sign of Jennifer has been found. The police have stated that their investigation has revealed no evidence of foul play in her case, and hence they've not identified any suspects that may be responsible for her disappearance. The National Center for Missing and Endangered and the Aware Foundation have taken an active interest in Jennifer's case and have aided in searches for her. But for the time being, they've been unable to find any additional information that could progress her case. In hopes that someone will come forward with additional information, A $5,000 reward is being offered by Crime Stoppers to anyone who comes forward with a useful tip that leads to Jennifer being tracked down. The last person to see Jennifer was one of her friends, who told the police that she seemed completely normal, and hence her disappearance has left everyone involved mystified. Investigators and her family have asked that the public keep an eye out for her and report any sightings. They can remain anonymous if they wish. With every passing month, Jennifer's case grows colder. And with no new leads coming in, her case needs to be solved before it goes completely cold. According to Jennifer's estranged sister, she was in an on-and-off-again relationship with a man who her family considers to be dangerous, since they believe she was a victim of domestic abuse. While investigators don't think that foul play is involved, her family feels that something untoward may have happened to her, since the man with whom she was involved for more than 10 years is said to have treated her badly. Anyone who has information on Jennifer's whereabouts is urged to get in contact with the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office at 252-946-7111. Her NAMUS case number is MP149037.